In the blazing sun of an ancient city, crowds gathered to honor a national hero laid to rest in a sacred tomb. Among them stood a world-famous boxing champion, rich, powerful, and feared in the ring. But outside the ropes, his arrogance had no limits. When a humble tomb guard tried to stop him from breaking the rules, the champion laughed. He mocked the man's uniform, belittled his discipline, and in a flash of rage, he threw a punch. Gasps filled the air. But what happened next would change the fighter's life forever. Because this was no ordinary guard. Behind that uniform stood a man who carried centuries of tradition, loyalty, and sacrifice. And in the next few seconds, the arrogant champion would discover that strength isn't measured by fists but by discipline, honor, and respect. The crowd roared his name. Cameras flashed. Reporters fought for a glimpse of him as he strutted out of his luxury car. Malik Johnson, the undefeated boxing champion of the world. His fists had earned him millions. His arrogance had built him a reputation, and his ego, it towered higher than the skyscrapers of New York. Malik was in the capital city for an international sports conference. But instead of inspiring young athletes, his real reason for attending was far less noble. He craved attention, recognition, and dominance everywhere he went. That morning, he decided to visit the city's most sacred landmark, a tomb, where generations of soldiers and leaders rested. It was a place of silence, a place of discipline, and above all, a place of respect. But respect was not in Malik's vocabulary. He arrived with his entourage, laughing, chewing gum, and tossing his designer sunglasses from one hand to another. As he reached the tomb, he noticed the guard, stoic men in crisp uniforms, standing as still as statues under the blazing sun. Their eyes didn't move, their expressions didn't change. Malik smirked. Look at them, he scoffed to his manager. Robots. Just standing there like fools. I bet they wouldn't last a round in the ring with me. His manager whispered, Malik, this isn't the place. People respect them. But Malik wasn't listening. He stepped closer to one of the guards, a tall man with sharp features and eyes that seemed to pierce through him, though the guard never flinched. Yo, Malik said, waving a hand in the man's face. Do you even blink? What, are you, a statue? The crowd around gasped softly, uncomfortable with his disrespect. But Malik thrived on attention. He leaned in closer. Tell me something, what's the point of standing here all day? You ain't protecting nothing. Just wasting your life. The guard remained silent, his posture unshaken. The silence made Malik furious. He hated being ignored. To him, silence meant disrespect. You think you're better than me, huh? You think standing there makes you a man. Still, the guard said nothing. His hands were firmly gripped around his ceremonial weapon. And then, in a reckless burst of arrogance, Malik snapped. He raised his fist and, with the same power that had knocked out champions, he struck the guard across the face. The world seemed to freeze. Gasps exploded through the air. Cameras turned. Reporters shouted. The guard staggered slightly but did not fall. He simply returned to his position, his jaw tightening, his eyes steady as stone. Malik smirked, raising his hands. See, nothing but a mannequin. But before he could turn away, another guard stepped forward, not to attack, not to fight, but to speak. His voice was calm, deep, and unshaken. Discipline is not weakness, Mr. Johnson, and strength is not measured by fists. The words cut through the silence like a blade. The crowd hushed. Malik chuckled, mocking the guard's solemn tone. Spare me the fortune cookie wisdom, soldier. I'm the strongest man here. Nobody can touch me. The first guard, the one Malik had punched, slowly turned his head. For the first time, his eyes locked onto Malik's, and in that gaze, there was no anger, no fear, only unbreakable discipline. You think you are strong because you can knock men down, he said, quietly. But true strength is when you lift men up. You think discipline is weakness, but discipline is the only reason this tomb, this country, this world has order. Without it, you are nothing but chaos. Malik tried to laugh, but something in the guard's words unsettled him. Cameras zoomed in, recording every second. The internet was already exploding. Man, whatever, Malik said, waving dismissively. But as he turned to leave, a small boy stepped forward from the crowd. He couldn't have been older than 10. Sir, the boy said softly, pointing at the guard Malik had hit. That man's father died here. He stands because it's his duty. He stands so people like you can walk free. The boy's mother quickly pulled him back, but it was too late. Malik froze. The guard's eyes softened slightly, just for a moment. Behind the rigid uniform was not just a soldier, but a man carrying the weight of history, loyalty, and sacrifice. Malik suddenly felt small. The reporters circled him like vultures. Malik, do you regret your actions? Malik, why would you hit a guard? Malik, don't you respect tradition? For the first time in his career, Malik had no words. His fists had always spoken for him, but now, in front of the world, his fists had betrayed him. The guards did not retaliate. They did not shout. They did not drag him away in handcuffs, though they could have. Instead, they returned to their positions, standing tall, silent, and unshaken. That silence was louder than any punch Malik had ever thrown. That night, Malik couldn't sleep. The guard's words haunted him. True strength is when you lift men up. For the first time, he questioned himself. His career, his arrogance, his entire life built on breaking men down in the ring. But outside the ropes, what had he built? Nothing, only chaos. The next morning, Malik did something nobody expected. He returned to the tomb alone, without cameras, without his entourage. He stood in front of the guard he had struck, and for the first time in his life, Malik lowered his head. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I thought power meant fear. I thought fists made me strong. But yesterday, I saw what real strength looks like. I saw discipline, and I respect that." The guard didn't reply. He simply held his position, unshaken as always. But Malik swore he saw the slightest nod, a silent acknowledgement. From that day forward, Malik changed. His fights in the ring were no longer about humiliating opponents but about inspiring respect. He started funding youth programs, teaching kids that discipline, not arrogance, was the path to greatness. And every year, on the same day, Malik visited that tomb not as a champion, not as a celebrity, but as a man who had finally learned the true meaning of strength, because sometimes, one punch can destroy your reputation, but one lesson in discipline can rebuild your soul. If this story touched you, remember true strength isn't in fists, but in discipline, respect, and honor. Malik's journey showed us that even the mightiest can fall when arrogance takes over, but they can also rise again when they learn humility. How many of us forget the power of patience, loyalty, and sacrifice in our own lives? If you believe discipline is the foundation of real strength, then don't just keep this story to yourself, share it with someone who needs the reminder. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What does true strength mean to you? And if you want more powerful stories like this, stories that inspire, challenge, and move you, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the next story might just be the lesson you've been waiting for.